Hi there, I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. Welcome. Today's got a video I think you're going to really enjoy. We went to the great Nicholas Coleman and asked him to do a video of a landscape, kind of a Hudson River School type of landscape, and putting a little figure in there by the campfire. I think you're going to enjoy this video.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Coleman. Today we're in my studio in Provo, Utah, and kind of the foothills of the Wasatch Front. Today we're going to paint. One of my more favorite themes is kind of the western sunset up in the mountains overlooking a lake by the fire. And today too I'll be able to share with you some of the materials that I like to use, my brushes, my paints, the canvas that I like to use, and even reasons why. And I'm happy we're again here in the studio, and we'll get ready to dive right in here in a second. So starting out today, I've decided to paint kind of a big western sunset up in the mountains overlooking a lake. With time allowing, I'm going to try to put a little figure by the fire in there as well. And when it comes to choosing my reference materials, I love to get out into the outdoors and the mountains behind my house here. And I was just up in Canada about a month or so ago and gathering materials and hiking and getting out to see all the fantastic things that are out there. And being out in nature, what's fantastic is, at any given point of the day, you get to see certain things that are, just for you almost. And you get to see things that nobody else gets to see, no one else. I mean, you might have Google, you might have magazines and books, which are all fantastic references to have. I don't think there's any substitute for your own experiences. Today I'm going to paint something that I love to paint is the mountains, and my favorite time of day also is early in the morning and late in the evening as the sun is just about ready to go behind the mountains. And when it comes to setting up my paintings, it's never so much the photograph that I'm trying to copy, or it's definitely my experiences that I've had, and I think even some of the best compliments I've ever had over my short career is it's not that it looks like a photograph or it looks the best compliment has been that they felt like they've been there, and I love that we get to share these experiences and share our enthusiasm for the outdoors and for painting and art and today with this particular sunset, you'll probably get to see my photographs that I'm using, or a couple of my old paintings that I've done, and it's not so much there to be an actual reference, an anatomical reference, but it's just an idea that sticks in my head to get something that I want to see in my painting. And then you'll see, the cloud formations not probably looking like the cloud formations in the photograph, but it's certain colors, it's the mood, and that's what I really like when I get to paint is I'll have a sketch, I'll transfer the sketch onto my board here, and a lot of times as the painting progresses, it definitely evolves and takes on its own life, different from where I even started, and the hope always is that it ends up even better than your original idea, and that always gets me excited. Let's get painting. So let's talk about now some of the materials we'll be using. So looking at some of the materials that I like to use, I love Rosemary brushes. They're a company based just outside London, and they make the most fantastic handmade brushes, and they're really not that expensive, which also is fantastic. I love to use Gamblin paints out of Portland, Oregon, and I visited them up in their place a few years ago and watched how they make all the paints, and it's fantastic and a slow-staking, painstaking process. I'm surprised they can charge what they don't charge more for what they do, because it's fantastic. And also I'm painting on I love Belgian linen. This is made by Fredericks, and the texture is Galicia. And what I love surfaces, and I love how paint can move as you putting the paint on the canvas, the surfaces and the textures you can create in a given image that you're creating. And what I like about the Galicia too, this is a little more of a rougher weave. It just seems to vibrate with the light and helps, adds an extra dimension almost into whatever you're putting on the canvas. And as I prepare my palette, as you can see, it's kind of a mess right now, but I always like to get fresh paint out before I start anything new and have nice clean brushes. And my medium is kind of a slow drying medium that'll let me work on my paintings, for a few days. Keeping my paint wet. And then today, I think, for the demonstration purposes, I'll put a couple drops of cobalt dryer in it, just so it'll stiffen up and I can finish the painting in a timely fashion. And that just means I need to be paying extra close attention to what I'm doing today. So let's get putting the paint on the palette. Keeping a clean palette always helps. Keeping clean brushes always helps, especially when you're painting a sky. It keeps you can imagine, if you look up in the sky, when we notice pollution, it's obviously terrible, and we don't like painting. We don't like seeing those colors in the sky, and the same thing goes with painting. And certain paints will have more lead, more filler, and so that's why quality paints always help keep your paintings nice and bright and clean. And having nice, like I say, clean brushes always helps this. I use a limited palette. It helps, I think, when you use a limited palette, it ties all your colors together, even if it's at that distance, coming closer. Everything kind of feels related and reflective of each other, and it keeps everything cohesive and nice. And right now I'm just going to put in a few of the colors that definitely need some refreshing here, and I've cleaned it off a little bit. But it's just about time to make another palette, and that might be almost another whole demonstration. So, yeah, this is, like I say, here's the Gamblin. I like using their ivory black. It's just a nice, clean black, and I know typically people don't like using black in certain paintings, but I always, to get the darkest darks, I always put my darks on kind of thin, and I always add like an alizarin crimson. Or there's this other fantastic color that's made by M. Graham & Co., this transparent red iron oxide, and it just kind of nice warms up the black, and especially with the alizarin crimson. And then kind of how I learned how to paint skies was with my father, Michael Coleman, and what he liked to do too is show me. We love Hudson River School painters, and especially a guy named Frederick Edwin Church and his fantastic skies. And there was one at the university next to our house, Brigham Young University, that has a fantastic little example. And it's just a nice little sunset, and it really is only done with about 4 colors. A white. I like using titanium white, it's a little colder. My dad likes using a permeable white, which is a little more warmer. And then we like use a nice red. My dad and I over the years have gone through all kinds of reds. We like Grumbacher red when it comes to this particular red, and just about everything else is Gamblin paint. We like Naples yellow light. We actually had this particular color mixed for us from Da Vinci Paint Company, and we need to get them back on the phone again because we're starting to run out. And hopefully they'll make it for us again. So here's this Gamblin titanium white again, and so I'm getting ready for my sky colors here, because I know I'm going to be dipping into these paints a little bit more, and sometimes if I know it's just going to be my sky, I'll put it out here on the actual place where I mixed my paint. Here's a cerulean blue, and this will actually be for probably this. I like using this and a little bit of white for smoke when I do campfires. Let's see. Got that one. Well, there's some green. I know some artists that keep their paints nice and organized, which I sometimes do, and then sometimes you can catch me like this. So, so what's the fun of keeping it organized? And then do some kind of clean medium. This is the copal varnish. I just like using a couple drops, not too much of this. Okay, well, I think my palette is prepared. Okay, so now we have the palette ready to go. Got my charcoal ready to go. I'm going to kind of lightly sketch in what we're going to paint today, and so you can watch as things kind of evolve, even as I transfer, what's in my head in from my drawings here and my paintings here, on my reference material here. As I get painting too, you'll see things start to change and evolve, and like I say, a lot of it is what I'm getting from my reference material, or kind of color schemes, what certain trees can look like together, and how they kind of how certain colors play off of each other, and yeah, we'll start sketching. So here I've just got everything ready to start sketching with this Vine charcoal. It's a fantastic tool just to kind of really quickly sketch in your idea, either from your sketch or from your reference material. And a lot of times I'll jump, I'll have sketches, but sometimes I've lost them, but I'll have my reference photographs, and then what I do like is being able to change things as I'm going, and if I happen to find something that I really like, I can change it right away, and as you're drawing with the charcoal, if you need to make a change, a clean rag or even you can just with your hand brush it away real quick and it's gone, but it kind of gives you some guidelines and helps you know exactly what you're going to do before you start wading in with paint. It's a fantastic tool just to this is my favorite part of the whole painting experience, I think, is when you have the big blank canvas right in front of you, and you have all the potential in the world and you haven't messed it up yet. It's the best part of the painting process. Like I say, a lot of times, you can plan and design and designate certain spots in different areas, that are going to be trees and rocks and figures, or maybe a smoke and fire are going to go, and it just kind of makes it fun to start to design and start creating places for shapes and where rocks are going to go and little crevices are going to go, and where dogs could be standing, or a canoe is going to go, but you can kind of feel the composition out and kind of continue to build, and it kind of just makes little fun areas to create. So I just kind of like to lay certain things in, and by no means will this all stay this way. If it does, I'll be surprised, but it kind of just gives me a sense of where I'm going. So that's what I'll lay certain shapes in, and things that make sense in my brain and feel good compositionally. And like I said, there's a few things in this photograph that I love. There's this kind of far purple back here with a little bit of kind of gray over here, and I don't know if it's clouds or mist or what, and then there's some nice little pinks in the clouds here, and this far bank, and I love this mirror aspect that we have going on down in the water, and just kind of a calm, cool night. Guy coming back to camp, getting ready, and getting his bedroll or whatever, and after a long day of being out and about, and yeah, so there's that. And I typically don't like to sketch in clouds with my charcoal because even the charcoal can get into the paint, and so I might have some trees coming down through here afterwards, but a lot of times I like to build that as I kind of feel like when you start a painting, you're starting here, but you're kind of, as layers go on and you're constructing and building a painting, and I think that's actually what happens, but it's a weird way to articulate it sometimes, but I think that's actually kind of what happens. And what'll be nice in here is this nice warm light will kind of glow as sun goes down. What makes it the sunset makes it look so fantastic is, like I say, the sunset will be bright, and you have this nice dark that's starting to be in the shadows. All this kind of light and dark, cool and warm, I think make certain paintings pop, and I think that's why we like them so much sometimes when certain paintings work the way you want them to work. I might put a canoe in this as well, and because how else did he get there, right? So, and a lot of times with my paintings too, there might be there's always seems to be an underlying story, and because I think I like my own paintings to kind of make sense, and you wonder how they, how animals got there or what figures got there, and like sometimes I just need little indicators of what certain things are, and then you can go to town and paint it. I love stuff like this in the photograph. This kind of, that backlight lights the trees, and okay, I think we might be ready to start painting. Okay, so now we have the sketch in. Now we'll start painting. And typically I like to start with the sky and kind of work down. And sometimes it's from top down, sometimes kind of the middle up and then top down. And then I like to go, anyway, that's kind of what I like to do. There's all kinds of ways to do it. This is the way I like to do it anyway. And some of the brushes, one funny little trick to get all the little fibers and hairs out is kind of just clean a few of the, maybe the ones that are almost breaking off, clean that up, and then, yeah, go to town painting. So I'll probably, well, I'll start with kind of the cleaner, brighter colors that I don't want to get any other like darker colors in with I don't want to get, muddy my colors anyway. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. Good trick too is to get enough paint that you're going to mix, so you're not constantly mixing little batches. It's easy to say, but hard to do sometimes. So sometimes to get a clean, nice, bright yellow or even white, I add a little bit of yellow to the white and the white to the yellow. Anyway, that helps keep my colors nice and clean. And again, I have a couple of drops of copal varnish in my medium over here, and that'll just help the chemical process of it drying. And you never want to use too much, as your paint can crack and pop off eventually later archivally. So I kind of use, instead of, like I say, charcoal driving, where my clouds are going to go, I'll kind of sketch it in with the actual paint that I'm going to be using and am using. Kind of choose a light source, and so everything's kind of coming from this side to this side, and the light will come anyway. How light tends to hit certain objects, trees, bushes, rocks, water, all that fun stuff will be coming from the left-hand side of the painting here. So here I like to start with my clean titanium white and my Naples yellow light, Keep my colors clean as I can. I start with a brand new brush with my skies, and I'll kind of like to put the nice bright colors in first, and then I'll a lot of times come in from even higher in the sky and work down so I can work my paints together properly and keeping my colors as clean as I can. So gravity and physics and the atmosphere feel right. And I've seen some artists where their skies feel heavy, and part of it is maybe their brush might not be clean, or their color palette, however they've constructed it. Again, it's like my opinion. Just there's all kinds of interesting ways to paint. As I continue to block in my sky with the colors that are already going to be in the sky, my Naples yellow and my Grumbacher red and my titanium white, I like to look at the sky as a whole, for my reference photographs. And as I continue to paint, things can change. And what's fun is you can, little happy accidents happen where you can accentuate certain neat things that happen with the brush and the colors that you're mixing, but just kind of keeping it light. And like I said, at this point, you don't need to commit. Granted, you're putting paint on the canvas, you're leaving little places for you to continue to build and construct your sky as it relates to the painting. And this really is the fun part, I think, of painting. So here's kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to stick a canoe. And what'll be fun is where this fire is going to be, it'll catch a lot of light down here and maybe catch the edge of the canoe there. There's always, look for fun opportunities as light kind of comes out, and I'll have to look for some spaces up here too where the sunlight is catching those trees. But just right now, man, it's wet, so I got to be a little careful and to not get things too muddy, and be able to know when to leave it alone. With rocks too, one of the tricks my dad taught me a long time ago, and it's easier said than done, is when it comes to textures of rocks, just kind of, it's fun to roll your brush, and then your paintbrush has gathered all kinds of neat paint on the sides, and create all kind of neat textures and lichens and moss, and again, I'll create more opportunities to where where light's catching, and create neat little highlights and places for light to catch. Let's see, with this, I am gonna get some dryer in directly with the paint that's going to be the canoe. So it'll be dry and ready to go when I want to come back and put details on it on the next pass. Yeah, sometimes the placement of a canoe can be tricky and fun for sure. My dad and I have a nice little collection of model canoes, and we have some full-size birch bark canoes as well, and modern canoes are great too. And Merrimack canoes are fun to look at for shapes, and we have some nice ones that we've used over the years, and sometimes, you know, I might without a photograph or without a reference, I'll just lay one in, but I always go back and find a good model that we have to get the details just right, and then photographs too. We have some fantastic book. I'm trying to remember the name of one. There's a fantastic canoe builder named Tappan Adney. That's I think it's called Birch Bark Canoes. But anyway, he did a lot of research and put together, you know, in the early 1900s, this fantastic book of all the different kind of tribal and early birch bark canoes and their shapes and purposes, but it's like, what's neat about, you know, putting these kind of paintings together, there's you know, more to the story than just, you know, an accent piece or a, you know, something you can put in a painting, but there's a kind of everything you add, you know, the kind of, you know, paddle designs as well, and the kinds of little accoutrements that are placed in the painting can kind of, you know, if you're you know, someone who's interested in the details and, you know, the whole story, there's a really neat history behind each little piece that, you know, goes into a painting, and you know, just adds a little more interest, you know, besides just what you're looking at. If you happen to love, you know, the subject matter, and which I do. So here I'm just kind of mixing a nice middle ground purple color that I have in the background there for the mountains. A lot of times when I'm, you know, blocking in paintings, I'll you know, block things in with a kind of a base color, and then my dad always wonders what I'm doing sometimes, but I know he does it too. But then once you get it to a certain point, I like to go back and add and kind of build the paint up and the surfaces up, especially when it comes to, you know, pine trees and mountains, where you can add, you know, neat details where light is catching, you know, the trees or certain angles or valleys or ravines. There's just neat ways you can utilize the light, you know, in the way in the background, middle ground, and the foreground, you know, just with intensity is you know, where you can definitely find fun ways and places to add, you know, more interest to the painting and highlights, and so that's what I'm doing here. And a few places where I can add highlights. Like I say, when I first start painting, you know, that's the idea of trees, and even when I go back in to add, you know, more details and a little more shapes that appear to be more pine tree reminiscent. That's what I'm doing here. I'm going back and building shapes that are more pleasing, you know, to me in my brain, and that I think look, you know, more look and feel more like pine trees, especially when you are, you know, we have that kind of the atmosphere, and there's, you know, water or there's smoke in the air that kind of take a place in the atmosphere that knock back, you know, the details that you'll see, and that's where you can build upon, you know, where the light is hitting in certain places that it's not in other places, and that's where you get that neat, you know, dichotomy of, you know, building one on top of the other, and you know, more places to add detail and add light and highlights, and so that's again what I'm doing here. I say this just softens again what I just did with that brush, and it's always nice with the reflections sometimes. Especially when I want a little more atmosphere and okay. Oh boy. Here I'm just kind of going back and filling in where that kind of horizon line will go, and what's fun about water is it is horizontal, and it's a fun place to again add gravity and weight and dimension and push things back and bring things forward as the water's going forward. That's interesting about those trees is they're back there, and the trees in the reflection are closer to than what's back there, and you try to get the reflection a little bit darker, and I'll even use artist tape on top of wet paint sometimes just to get that little sliver of that perfect sliver of light, and then I'll soften it with my fan brush afterwards, and to kind of eliminate that the too perfect of a feel, but you still need a few bits of perfect straightness to kind of bring that, to create the illusion of the water there in the horizon, but yeah, like I said, when you build a painting, it's so much fun. All the different elements and water can be so much fun. When you're getting a lot of it is to get to the fun parts. You have to wade through a lot of other stuff to get to the other side. So the painting's starting to come together now, and more and more elements are coming together, and just feeling better and better as you move along here. I think what's fun about painting these kinds of paintings is, as you're building them and adding to your composition and trying to add interesting things to your compositions, and it's always fun to again bend to certain places, and if you're not plein air painting, when you've come back into your studio after a fun camp trip or any kind of trip, or you're out looking for, I'm just as you come forward in the painting, there's more pigment in your paint. There's more color, hue and everything. But the trees, everything as you come forward will be more and more detailed. And here I'm adding, kind of the shapes of the trees, as if there were, some smoke or mist in the atmosphere. And these ones are closer, and they're breaking through, that haze, and you're able to see, more of the branches, more of the shape of the tree. And it's fun to push things back and bring things forward, and look for ways to build on those neat little subtle accents that are hiding in the background that often can be just fantastic with a snag or a dead tree or something hanging off into the water. Winslow Homer did it masterfully, and he's definitely one of my heroes. And Thomas Aquinas Daly does a fantastic job too, and I love his fishing paintings, and just they're so tonal and atmospheric. They just make you feel like you're there on that cold day when the temperature starts to drop, or the sun's starting to come out and burn off the mist. Just kind of gets you excited to keep busy in painting and bring back your enthusiasm to back into your studio and get to work painting. Hi, I'm Nicholas Coleman. Welcome to my workshop. So in this workshop, we're going to paint one of my favorite kinds of paintings, a camp scene by the fire and overlooking a lake and at dusk. Painting campfires are one of my favorite things to paint. I love the smell, I love the lighting, the company that you keep around the campfire, and then especially by a lake, you can hear the water in the background, and you might hear a dog barking in the background, or birds up in the sky, and at that time of day when the sun's just dropping down over the horizon, and it really is magic, and that really is why it's one of my favorite things to paint. And today we're gonna paint that together. And today too, I'll be able to share with you some of the materials that I like to use, my brushes, my paints, the canvas that I like to use, and even reasons why. I think even some of the best compliments I've ever had over my short career is, it's not that it looks like a photograph, or it looks, the best compliment has been that they felt like they've been there, and I love that we get to share these experiences. Join me by the fire as we capture nature, and we'll get busy painting.
Well, that's Nicholas Coleman. I hope you enjoyed that landscape painting. You can learn more about it at painttube.tv. And remember, we have a discount code for you up in the comments section. Just go up there, grab that code, and get your discount. Just go to painttube.tv. All right, now let's get to our interview with Nick Coleman.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Coleman, and this is my father, Michael Coleman. We're here in his library today that's just off of his studio, and today we're just going to talk about how he kind of grew up painting, and then what happened to me and painting as well. So what got you into painting, Dad?
In school, when I first thought about art, I mean, little kids don't know what that is, but my teacher, Mrs. Tracy in kindergarten, called my mom and said, "Boy, this boy knows how to draw." I had drawn. I remember I drew a drawing of a potato bug. It was looked like a little armored car. And anyway, so from then on, all the teachers just let me draw. I loved to draw, and so I took advantage of it. And one day I had a BB gun. I was always out shooting things and hunting and doing things, and I shot never expecting to hit anything, but I hit a little English sparrow, and it dropped, and my friend and I ran over, and I picked it up, and my friend let a blood-curdling scream. He says, "I'm going to tell your mom," and he went running home, and I just stood there just looking at this little magnificent bird. I kind of needed glasses in those days, so what I'd been shooting at was kind of blurry, and to see that in focus, I think that really clicked in my brain. And the symmetry of the feathers and the colors, and subtle colors on an English sparrow, very subtle colors, and the contrasts. And I just held it in my hand and just looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, and went home and drew some pictures of it, and I've kind of been doing that ever since. I shoot ducks and different things and prop them up in my bedroom and use the encyclopedias to hold the wings the way I wanted them, and make watercolors and drawings. But that's kind of how I got into it. And I was always the class artist, and it was really just fun to do. I didn't give it much thought other than this is really, really fun to do it. I really love doing it.
So when did things click for you when it came to selling your paintings and feeling like you were starting off the right way?
When I first started painting, I was painting and painting. I was going to BYU, and I didn't like BYU. When I graduated from high school, I didn't plan on going to college. I just didn't think much about it. I wasn't interested in it. I was really good at what I liked, but if I didn't like it, I didn't study it. So I figured, the heck with this stuff. But I went up to the art building. They just barely brand new building, and they had a bunch of paintings hanging around. And I assumed, this was the faculty paintings, and what it was a bunch of Hudson River paintings, Kensett, Ennis, Frederick Church, and people, and it just, boy, whoa, I'm going to sign up. So I signed up, and then you can imagine my surprise when I saw who the teachers were. It was just nothing but arguments after that. But one summer I decided, screw it, I'm going to quit and just paint. And there was a guy at BYU that was an art historian, and Wesley Burnside. He was the expert on Maynard Dixon, and he and I always did a few things together. He's a funny guy, and he introduced me to. I didn't know how to sell my paintings. I mean, I had no idea. Nobody else around knew what to do, but I just knew I wanted to do it. I took my paintings down. I had seen paintings hanging down at one of the local banks, and I thought, well, this is a start. I'll take some paintings down there and see if they'll hang them. And I went in and they were remodeling. The wall wasn't there anymore. So crap. And I went over to the local funeral parlor. I had seen paintings over there, and I went in and said, well, these are the permanent collection. No, we don't hang paintings there. And I thought, brother. So I went back home, and Wes Burnside said, let me introduce you to a friend of mine. He's an art dealer, Dewey Moore. And Dewey came down, and he was a hot shot. He was a piece of work. But I was so impressionable. He signed me to what I thought was a one-year contract. He had power of attorney and all kinds of things. And when my dad read it, he says, hey, this is for 10 years. I go, what? But anyway, I was just happy that he signed me, that he had confidence in me. And I started doing paintings, and we had a one-man show. And he scared me to death with the prices. The lowest prices was $100, and for a big painting, 24 by 36 of what I was painting in those days, they were $300. And I thought, no, nobody's going to buy those things. Nobody's can afford it. But they sold out the first night. It was amazing, and I just kept painting and painting and painting, and that was kind of where everything really clicked. Did you know that there were people that liked art and would actually spend money on it? As I grew up my dad was a plumber on the Union Pacific Railroad. My mom was a housemaker, and there's no art, no whatsoever. The encyclopedias, I loved the encyclopedias, and that was my real
branch to the outside world.
Yeah, that was really my into art was what was in the encyclopedias, and the stuff was really cool. And anyway, Dewey sold paintings, and then he became a crook and kept my money. And I got married, and oh man, it was slim. Anyway, I only had him as a gallery, and he had power of attorney, so I was really trapped. And he wouldn't give me any money, and the paintings were gone. I'd take them up to Salt Lake, and they'd disappear. And it just got miserable. I finally had to sue him, and that was an experience. But then he left town. The FBI was after him, and so I got a letter from a gallery in California. It said, we've tried to reach you several times, but the letters keep coming back. We thought we'd try one more time. It was the Zampman Galleries, and so I graded some paintings up in some plywood boxes, took them to the Greyhound bus station, and took them down there and sent them to the Zampmans, and they actually sold them. They sold them, and geez, talk about almost giving me a heart attack that people other than Dewey Moore were selling my paintings. So anyway, that's kind of how it all started to click, and it pretty scary, especially we had one little baby, and it worked. Saying your prayers helps a lot, I tell you, and working hard, and anyway, those are interesting times. What are your early memories, Nick, about painting and things. I can remember some real funny things going on. But what do you remember most about coming in the studio and doing things?
Well, I remember, yeah, coming into your studio, little kid, probably 3, 4, 5, wandering in there, and I remember you being on the phone quite a bit and waiting for you to get off the phone sometimes. But I just remember, begging to paint, and then on your paintings, and then you'd get boards and prepare things for me too, and even you prepared a little copper plate for me to do an etching but yeah, I really do remember coming in and you marking off spots on me on your boards. And
yeah, I would put Nick on my knee and I'd mark off some stuff when I was painting and mix up some colors and give him the brush and say, put it right there. And Nick would just do it. Boy, he was serious.
And I'd come back in after you were gone and do more. And I figured if I didn't get in trouble that you didn't even notice because I was doing such a good job. So
we always had fun. It was just in the studio, all the kids in the studio. It was just a fun place to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still remember coming in and painting. I think it was for one of the contests in elementary school, and I think I did a little black bear painting in the woods. And I remember thinking, I think I got it done in just a couple hours, and thinking, what's so hard? Why does it take you so long? I'm so fast. Look how easy this is. So. But yeah, you get older and you realize they take a little bit longer sometimes. So
details,
yeah, not fuzzy ones.
Anatomy,
yeah, anatomy,
all kinds of things. But it's just fun to watch the sparkle in a young person's eyes when they're doing it and stuff like that. They're just so intense, and it's just fun. It's just fun. Nick has been with me all along, and we've done some really fun things together. Nick would come in and he would paint, and like I say, he would climb up on my lap and say, "What can I paint, Dad?" And I'd mix up some colors and mark on the area on the painting and give him the brush and let him do it. And it was really funny when he would do his own paintings later. He'd put the little copyright thing down by his signature. And I always thought that was pretty cool. But boy, he paid attention when I told him this and told him that, told him this. You look at his face and boy, he was just really listening. It was nice to have a little son that was a friend that was listening and could hear what I was talking about and know what I was saying, and he was really paying attention. He wasn't just a little kid running in and out of my studio. He wanted to come in and learn, and it was just really a fun father-son thing. Didn't think about that much at the time, but it was just really a good thing. And Nick is all of his school projects and things. Man, we've made some really cool things together. We made. I remember Nick he made a topographical map, and
Montana.
In Montana, and oh my gosh, National Geographic would have been proud. But Nick took it to school, and the teachers sent it around to all the classes and everything, and they kept it for years and years and years. But Nick knows how to do stuff, and he learned from the very beginning how to use his fingers and how to think about things and what's behind the question and things like that, not just the obvious stuff. So it's really been fun having him grow up and watching him do things, and we really have had a good time together, and it's all really been fun.
One of the funnier ones, because like I say, you and I used to go out in the early mornings and trapping muskrats before school and stuff, and you would actually point out how the banks kind of crumbled off into look for muskrat holes and the signs of where to find muskrats, stuff like that, and then I think I was probably running around with one of our neighbor friends, Lindsay Murphy, and I think the neighborhood had poison out for rats, not muskrats, but rats. And speaking of learning details early on, is I found a dead rat, down by the river, and I got all excited and I brought it back, and you were on the telephone painting on the, and then I think I waited there for happily for 5 minutes with a dead rat by the tail until you turned around and went, "Wow,
it's a rat!
That's a rat! Get that out of here!" So that was pretty funny.
Oh yeah. Where we used to live in Marcrest, had a really great pond, and the muskrats were in there, and the fish. I caught fish on the Provo River and brought them and planted it, and we'd catch a lot of fish out there by the pond. But we spent a lot of time out by that pond. It was a pretty special place, and I remember one day we caught a couple of baby skunks and brought them home. And it was so funny to watch those little skunks. They'd kind of run backwards after us, squirting. But we couldn't smell it anymore. We were, boy, people could smell us. But yeah, that pond was a special place. It was right in my backyard there. That Nick really enjoyed it, and I did too. We just have had a fun time out in nature and our trapping experiences. But anyway, it's just been fun.
It was fun. No, yeah, we take out your model birch bark canoes and get photographs, and I mean it doubled as, you know, a water source really for photographs. And
yeah, I've got a lot of model birch bark canoes and umiaks and different things, and Nick and I would take them down to the pond and put them in and put rocks in there so they'd have the right ballast, and take photographs of them, try and be as accurate as we could, and a lot of that stuff really rubbed off on Nick. I didn't know it at the time. I mean, you just do stuff, and it becomes part of you. And Nick is really into it, and it's just so happy to have a friend that is into that kind of stuff. We think of the same things. But that pond was really really a good place.
yeah, so it was interesting growing up, you know, knowing that you were an artist, and I just thought that was normal. And I was always, you know, that Murphy was an optometrist, and I just, you know, there were jobs out there, but I didn't realize that, you know, Dad's left and went to work, and you didn't. You know, went to the studio, and it was our job to bug you to go play catch outside and go play baseball, and you still got your work done, and that's, I think that's transferred into, you know, my own work with my kids. I'm used to being able to get quite a lot of work done, even though there's about a million distractions. And it's fantastic when you can go into the studio and paint for hours and hours and hours, but then at the same time you have family you need to worry about and take care of, and it was weird when someone told me, "Oh, your dad's this fantastic artist," and I just, well, it was one of those funny things where I just, of course you are. Because it might be that was just normal, but as I got older, it was a little trickier knowing that was what I wanted to do, and then understanding, you know, all the shows you went to and all the, you know, the galleries you dealt with, and then I had grown up, you know, talking to all your gallery people for you, because I was in charge of shipping or making mats for, you know, watercolors and different people, you know, some of your gallery people that wanted mats and different things, and that we'd ship out. And so, like I say, that just kind of became normal to me, and then I had to ignore almost what you were already just in order to do what I was doing, and make sure it happened. Because I think if I waited for anything, it wasn't going to happen. Because, you know, I think knowing that I was your son helped, but if I didn't produce the work, I think that was going to be the killer. And it wouldn't have mattered who the heck you were if I didn't produce and I didn't do, you know, put the time and put out the work. It wouldn't have mattered. I think that was probably the only pressure there is I needed to follow through, because you were who you were, and you did produce and get your stuff out there. And
well, Nick has worked hard. I've never ever had to tell him to get painting, going back in and paint. He just does it. He knows what to do. He has that thing in his head that, like I do, we want to get things done, get things done, make it better, and better. And it's a love you have with what you're doing, whether you're a dentist or whatever. But if you love what you're doing, you're gonna work hard. And Nick has always just had that on his own, and whether it's from watching me or whatever, but boy, he just took to it like a duck to water. He knew what to do, and then we've got a lot of books. This library is full of books. I've got 6,000 volumes in my library here and in the studio and around. And Nick has just always been into that stuff. And then his studio is the same. Books, learn. And I've never had to say, "Hey, Nick, look at this, look at that. He's already looking at it. So it's been fun. It's been really fun.
No, it was, yeah, kind of funny too, when I got out of high school, and the same exactly when you just described, you didn't have an interest in it. In high school, mom was always after me to, finish up my grades and make sure I got good grades. And I was a good student. What was funny is getting into college, she was worried that I wasn't going to go, and I got in, and she said, "If you get in, you're going." So I got into BYU and everything, And then her thing is, you have to graduate. If you're going to do anything, I'll let you do whatever you want, but you have to graduate. And that motivated me to, go to every term and semester and get done. I think I got done in 2 years, because I knew if I took a break, I wasn't going to go back, because I hated it. and people were telling me, that it's already, they were making fun of what I wanted to do. And I was just ignoring them and focusing on trying to, I felt like I was painting full time and going to school part time, but like I really was, that focused me. And
He'd take his assignments to class, and the teachers were flabbergasted. He'd have French mats on his drawings that were ready to sell, and that wasn't the point, but the presentation, the importance of it. And Nick knew that, and he not just draw a bunch of things and paint a few things and throw them into a closet someplace, but he knew how to present things, because he watched how I would do it, and we would do it, and it just kind of come along. And boy, he was great at making French mats and different things. The teachers were, I think, they were
one guy especially
flabbergasted, didn't know what to do.
Wasn't amused with what I was.
No, they weren't amused. They were. I hate to say it, they were lazy and didn't know what to do. And Nick was so far above the guys. I knew some of the guys that were still.
Some of my professors were your contemporaries, and they didn't get you then, and they didn't get me. And I tried not to. I tried to go along to get along and do the assignments,
but they'd see how well Nick could do it. I think they were just mortified that Nick could do this, and they made it hard on him. But he graduated, like you say, a couple of years in college, and he was great. He took all the academic stuff, accelerated courses and stuff, and zip zap, he was out of there. So, and he did graduate and had a fun time and met a nice woman to marry, and it's been fun. Things fall into place. If you work hard, things fall into place. And Nick knows how to do that. Do you ever, when you're doing things and all it's kind of just hit you like a cherry pie in the face that you knew what you wanted to do?
Well, I think there are actually a few moments.
It felt right. It felt right.
Well, again, when I was a little kid, just growing up, I remember second grade, my teacher, Miss Holbrook, we did some kind of paper cutting exercise craft project, and I remember saying, well, this isn't real art, or something stupid, just not nice for a second grader to say. And she took me out in the hall and she goes, not every kid's dad is a famous artist like your dad. You need to be nice and go back into the assignment. I thought, okay, I can do that. And she, she was very nice about it, and I, knocked it off after that. But then there's a few moments like that in school, not just like that one, but where I always wanted. That's what it's like. Well, that's what I'm going to be, and I think I bugged you enough to go to the art store to get enough. When I'd go with you to Provo Art and Frame to get sketchbooks and colored pencils and watercolors and everything. And then I remember in high school too, my fantastic art teacher Dan Barney was talking about the percentage of high school kids who go on to actually be, some kind of professional in the, graphic arts or graphic designer or artist, and it was very low. And I thought, well, I'm that percentage. And he goes, oh, don't speak so fast. You just don't know. I said, oh, I know. And he goes like, you don't know. I said, yes, I do. I know. And we had kind of a funny relationship like that. But that sometimes there was funny conversation with teachers that kind of would almost tempt me, or tell me that you can't do that. And that was especially my experience at BYU a little bit. Is they made fun of what I did. They told me that it had already been done, and they would not make, like I say, they were hard on me. And like I said, whether they knew it or not, they were focusing me for better or worse to continue on the path that, of course, that's what I'm going to do. And it was always kind of a natural progression to, doing certain things. And there were some actually good classes at BYU, like the etching class that I took, a guy named Gary Barton, and he was fantastic. But yeah, some of the professors I had, the dean actually, without me even having to ask, waived certain classes. They go, oh, you two are not going to get along. I already know how this is going to go. I will waive this for you. Because I already see it not going very well for you. And then that particular professor, one of my classes, he says, hey, how come you haven't been in any of my, I know you're supposed to take my classes, they're the required classes. And I said, oh, I know, I was happy to tell him. Probably. the dean, he waived your classes for me. He did what? But, like I said, some people were watching out for me, and some people I think weren't helpful, but it ended up being all helpful and positive in the long run, I think. And even with my wife now, I had to convince her that it was a real job. She goes, "Oh no, I think I need an accountant. This isn't going to work," because she got her BFA in photography, and she has an artistic eye as well, and she was quite worried that we needed to get she needed an accountant as a husband, and so she could do her creative stuff, and someone else was, being smart about everything else. And I said, no. I said, this is a real job. Trust me. I treat it like a real job. And when I'm sick, when I feel good, when I'm too busy, you still have to do it no matter what. And whether anyone's telling you to do it, because like I said, there's no magic elves that come in at night to paint your paintings for you when you don't show up, the next day. So. Like I said, there's been a few moments over the years that definitely have continued to push me in the right direction. The right direction. You hope it's the right direction anyway. So
I've really been proud of all the stuff that he does. That it's not like winning an Academy Award or anything like that. Nick, when he's entered contests, he kind of followed in my footsteps. There, we always
never
got kicked out of the contest. Teachers didn't think we could do it on our own, and so they would disqualify us, and then we'd find out later. And but just to see his work, go, oh yes, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and not have to say, Nick, do it this way, do it that way, do it that way. I've never had to do that. I've corrected him and this and that and the other, but I've really been proud that he knows what to do. And I'll say things, and he's already thinking that. And so it's not like there's the Academy Award that I'm so proud of my son. He's just always been there. He's always doing things, and he's still doing things, and it just comes so natural to him, and that really makes me proud that he's. I don't have to say, now Nick, think about it this way, think about it that way, because he already does, and it's just kind of a natural kind of a thing, and that's what I love about him. He's just a good guy, and. But yeah, I'm really, really, really proud. And time marches on. As I get older and older and better looking, I don't know. But you look back and you try and see highlights and this and that and the other. But it's kind of funny because everything with Nick is always a highlight. And it's hard to pin down one thing. And another thing, Nick, with his children, he's the best dad I've ever seen. He really thinks things through and explains things to them, and it's really cool. I don't have to do anything. He's just give them a chucka under their chin, and
like I'm flying by the seat of my pants all the time. Anyway,
oh, that's
those
what
guys,
it is,
those
man.
kids. So it's interesting. Like this day and like present day, with stupid. Pandemic and then galleries closing and still painting our paintings. I was curious what was going to happen, and it was interesting that people I think that were staying home. I think they looked for, hey, what's missing in our houses, and I think a lot of them thought it was art. And I'm glad that they sometimes turned to the internet and turned to their collection they already had and thought we need more Colemans, and it's given us more time to paint, and it was this last year and a half or so has been interesting to paint more paintings, even though the galleries are slowing down a little bit, and a few have closed their doors. And
yeah, these kind of things we always tell each other, paint your best, paint your best, paint your best, and you're ready for anything. So
yeah, and even with museum shows that are popping up, and fundraisers, things that we do, and yeah, it's definitely interesting to just, like I say, because you can talk about stuff and complain about funny things, but I think it comes down definitely just to getting your work done and being ready, and I'm looking forward to getting out more and being able to go back to Sweden, like the one time we went there and saw the fantastic museums and the National Museum, and we went to Anders Zorn's house and studio and museum and got to see some of his pieces and where he painted and with his natural light, and one thing I remember thinking is when we were visiting his house is that they talked about his house staff. That, they'd sit down together with all the staff in their house to eat their meals together, and I thought, man, we could use a staff, not just Danny the assistant, but a whole fleet of assistants. That would be fantastic, I think.
Time's the enemy. We try and cram too much every day, and it works, and it works, and it works. But yeah, with the economy and everything, we've never neither one of us has ever really. It sounds funny, paint for the money. We like to paint, and good things happen. So I don't know. It's an interesting world, and things change, go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth over my life. And Nick has got a lot ahead of him, and I don't know what the future's going to hold for anybody. But as long as you're doing what you love to do, that's got to be really the reward at the end of the day. So we have a good time.
Well, I still miss your friend Steve Rose,
Yeah.
who held off the longest time having a website. Of all things, and he goes, well, if people are going to buy a painting, they got to come see me.
Yeah.
And then I think you used to joke in the early 2000s that, oh, the internet's just a fad. And I actually saw an article the other day that talked about people did think it was actually just going to be a fad. And I thought, well, my dad was right, except for the fad, but being a fad. But no, that's what I do like about art is it almost isn't like that's what I don't think the internet is good at is giving you a sense of place or a sense of tactile, something you can hold on to. That's what's so fantastic about galleries is you can go into it, you go to some place and you go into a gallery and then you bring your experiences to to the paintings that you like, whether it's our paintings or someone else's paintings. And Steve Rose had some fantastic, the good old historical stuff that just was.
Yeah, Steve had the Biltmore Gallery, a legendary gallery in the art world in the West, and. He taught us. He taught us some good lessons. He was a great guy, one of our best friends, and yeah, he knew how things really should be, and Nick missed a lot of it. I grew up, and most of the really good art dealers are dead. Kennedy Galleries, where I really got a big start. Rudy Wunderlich and things. Mike Frost at Day and Bartfield's. Mike's still alive, but he's closed his gallery, and all these galleries are closing. And Nick has missed a lot of fun things that I've had, and I feel sorry for that. But it's a different world, and I don't claim to understand it, and I really don't try the computer world and the digital stuff and everything. But it's a different thing. It's a new adventure, and Nick is really guiding me along. A long ways into this kind of stuff, and I need it big time because I'm I'm kind of a stick in the mud.
Well, it's funny, like when you show up to a show, like I kind of forced you to go to the Prix de West show in Oklahoma a year or two ago, and the joke is, hey, you're alive. I mean, you might have the best painting, be the best painter, but if you don't put a face to it, sometimes people don't even know that there's someone behind it. If they think they don't think about it too much, but they don't really think you're dead. But if you don't go out of your house to the actual museum,
and Nick has learned those lessons. I used to go to these shows in New York and different places and end up with a bunch of business cards with notes on the back. People wanted a painting here. I didn't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I could have gone home and sorted them out and painted all kinds of paintings, and I just. If I really liked somebody, I'd do it. But Nick is following up more, and that's where computers and his foresight into what is the real world now is helping me a lot because I need it. And anyway, it really is a brave new world, and I'm kind of slow to recognize it. But Nick is really helping me a lot.
I do what I can.
Well, for the future, we've got a few things planned, but with this COVID stuff and traveling, I don't like to travel. I like to be there, but I don't like the travel part of it. My wife loves the traveling and everything and going places. And I've been a lot of places, and I'm glad I did it when I had the energy and saw things. But I'm really concentrating more and more on my painting now, and I think Nick is too. We both are because of circumstances. It's fun and it's nice to stay at home and paint, and we've got a few little trips planned here and there, and Nick more than I do, but we just have a fun time together and coordinate things, and if Nick hears of something that's fun, he'll tell me and I tell him, and we put things together, and we've got some really good friends and backups and connections in Africa. And Nick and I have had some really fun experiences up in British Columbia hunting bears and hunting moose and different things. And you get close when it's just the two of you and you're sneaking up on a grizzly bear or a moose or something like that. It's a serious business. And to watch Nick, the way he confronts things in life, and it's just a good way to do things. But we've got some pretty serious plans ahead, and we plan on doing a lot of things from here. What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to the most is I'm trying to figure out with winter coming on, kids ski team stuff, and running them up to the canyon, which is great because then I can get some photographs running up to the canyon, but it's almost every other day, so it's time out of your day to stop painting and doing certain things, and also getting ready for like the archery show coming up in January, and then the Briscoe and down in San Antonio, and trying to find time to fit all that in, and at the same time, try to find some time for family to go actual travel, and I think Meta's been trying to get either to Sweden or to Italy right now, and that's what she's trying to focus on, and I'm trying to let her do all of the planning stuff, and then I could try to see if I can sneak it in, but there's always, what I love about traveling too is, if it's with my wife and the kids, it's museums, and she always plans fantastic museum visits and fantastic art, and like I say, we visited Amsterdam a couple years ago and went to Rembrandt's house and got to go to the Rijksmuseum, and then visited Spain and got to go to Soroya's house and got to go to the Prado and that's a bad pronunciation, and a few other fantastic museums that were there, but I feel like there's always a pilgrimage to be had to certain artists' homes, and I'd love to get, what I really want to do is get to the Adirondacks this upcoming year and spend some time on a lake and a cabin out in the woods and nobody bugging you. That's the biggest one I want to get to right now. So if I can make that happen, I'll be a happy guy, I think. So yeah, we should go up Sundance Canyon and see if we can see any waterfalls. And we got some snowfall, but it's melting again real quick, and see if we can see some cool.
Yeah, we live really in a great place in the Wasatch Mountains, and Provo Canyon is, when you live someplace, it's always, oh, this isn't so great. I want to go far away, far away, far away. But the more Nick and I have both traveled a lot of places, and I think as the years go by, we come to appreciate where we live more and more. And just 20 minutes up the canyon, boy, there's some great stuff. You just have to open your eyes and see it. Mm-hmm. It's just so cool. The waterfalls and the streams and rivers and fields and the moose and the elk and the turkeys and the wildlife and stuff, and all the things that we love so much. It's just right here. So it's a good life and a good place to be. And
well, want to head up there tomorrow and see what we can see?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
that is Nicholas Coleman, and he's got a brand new video on painting landscapes. I think you're going to love it. Just check it out at painttube.tv. You'll see the link there, and you'll also see a discount code that you get for today only. Take advantage of that. Well, thank you for watching. I'm Eric Rhodes.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Coleman. Welcome to my workshop. So in this workshop, we're going to paint one of my favorite kinds of paintings, a camp scene by the fire and overlooking a lake and at dusk. Painting campfires are one of my favorite things to paint. I love the smell, I love the lighting, the company that you keep around the campfire, and then especially by a lake, you can hear the water in the background, and you might hear a dog barking in the background, or birds up in the sky, and at that time of day when the sun's just dropping down over the horizon, and it really is magic, and that really is why it's one of my favorite things to paint. And today we're gonna paint that together. And today too, I'll be able to share with you some of the materials that I like to use, my brushes, my paints, the canvas that I like to use, and even reasons why. I think even some of the best compliments I've ever had over my short career is, it's not that it looks like a photograph, or it looks, the best compliment has been that they felt like they've been there, and I love that we get to share these experiences. Join me by the fire as we capture nature, and we'll get busy painting.